In today's show, the Trailblazers are making moves in the bottom half of the roster. Two-way players in and out as we approach the deadline to finalize this thing. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, we're talking about some roster shuffling. The Blazers making moves in March, along with many other teams in the league, because we are approaching a deadline, and deadlines spur actions. We've made it to Wednesday. On Wednesday, March 4th, we will hit the deadlines to finalize two-way contracts. So there's a bunch of teams around the league shuffling out either two-way contracts because they have open spots due to promotions or trades, and making some moves to fill those spots and to maybe waive some guys who, if they want to fill spots with some other players who might be available. And the Blazers did just that. They added a young wing, Chris Youngblood. They let go another wing, Javonte Cook. Happy trails. We'll talk about both of those guys. Kind of a little mini introduction to Chris Youngblood. Who is he? And then with Cook, it was just such a strange. The whole Javonte Cook thing was relatively strange in and of itself. I don't think particularly meaningful, but in general, just a weird way to handle decisions around the margins of the roster. We will get into all of that, plus a very brief update on the Senate bill that's going to have hundreds of millions of dollars of public tax money that's going to build a new arena here, renovate the arena here in Portland, and keep the team in town at the cost of us and not them. Let's get into Chris Youngblood first, though. Who is he? Well, he's 6'4", listed at 220. He's a rookie who spent 5 years in college. Started at Kennesaw State. He was part of sort of that COVID class. So he got to five years in school. Started Kennesaw State for 3 years. Spent a year at South Florida, where he was the American Athletic Player of the Year at South Florida. Go Bulls! And then he transferred to Alabama for his final collegiate season, where he came off the bench on a very good Alabama team, 2 seed in the tournament, made the Elite Eight. He was a good college basketball player. And then he went undrafted and signed eventually a two-way contract with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and played with the Thunder, appeared in 32 games. He was a small minutes back half of the roster guy, with Oklahoma City, but he ended up wearing out his 50-game active list availability, and then he got waived at the beginning of February 6th. He got waived just before his 24th birthday. Happy birthday, Chris Youngblood. You are now unemployed, but now you're employed yet again because he's been signed by the Blazers. The Blazers did not have to make a corresponding move to add Chris Youngblood. They got him because they have an open two-way spot. Each team gets 15 NBA roster spots. Blazers, all of those are full, and 3 two-way spots. That gives you a total of 18. And the Blazers had an open two-way spot because they had converted City Sissoko. So there's no in and out for Chris Youngblood. It didn't have to be. So who is he? I read a couple brief scouting reports on him. He was not heavily scouted coming out of the draft. He was invited to the G League elite camp, but he didn't go to the combine, and is not on only the deepest scouting reports have even Chris Youngblood on there. He's a bench guy on a good college basketball team. He's kind of like the right NBA size, 6'4", 220, kind of like a bigger guard. I remember when he came through with Oklahoma City, if you would ask me how big he was, I would have said 6'8". So I remember not knowing who he was. This is my recollection of him. I said, I don't know who that is. I don't know who Youngblood is when he's getting in the game. And I also imagined him being much larger in my recollection selection. So learning that he's actually like a shooting guard is like, oh, well, how about that? But he's a shooter. Like that's probably what he is first and foremost. He was a good shooter in college. 39.3% in college on 5.6 attempts per game. It's almost 6 threes a game in college on 39% shooting. That's a bona fide shooter. He has not shot particularly well at the professional level. He played in 17 games in the G League across the tip-off tournaments and the regular season. You'll see a lot of people cite it as 10 games. Don't forget to combine those stats because the G League season is weird. But he played in 17 games and shot 34% from three with the Oklahoma City Blue. But he played more games, 32 or more appearances, I should say. He played way more minutes in the G because when he was down there, he played a bunch. But more appearances with the NBA club, 32 than his 17 in the G. But he's not taking a lot of twos. 16 of 51 from three. He took 60 total field goals. So that's 51 3-pointers, 9 2-pointers during his NBA career. He did take 10 free throws, and you imagine probably those came in on attempts inside the arc. But if you're scoring at home, that's a cool 85% 3-point rate. 85% of his shot attempts are from three. So like why I'm mentioning the 3-point shooting is because that seems to be the thing that is he's gonna be asked to do. For the most part, this is kind of what modern off-ball players do in the NBA is you're a spacer, right? You give the others like better creators space to get things done. 34% in the G League, 31.5%, 31.4% in the NBA. He has not shot particularly well at the professional level, but it's, in theory, it's in there somewhere. And I think like just the fact that he was on the OKC active list for 50 games tells you that at least another well-respected NBA franchise thinks that he is like at least borderline-y NBA player. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. He's not going to play. Like, unless someone gets hurt, he's not going to play. Like, look at the Blazers roster, like who unless someone is injured, he will not get an opportunity. It's just they're full up and they don't. That is not the sort of position of glaring need. They need a center. They need one more big man, but they didn't. That's not what they did. I'll talk about more about sort of their approach to two-way stuff in the second segment. But so I assume there's been no reporting on this not locally or nationally. I think it was first reported by Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, but neither Freeman or Heiken local guys did not have whether this was the length of this deal. I have to assume it's for 2 years, meaning the end of this season and next. Two-way contracts are non-guaranteed, so there's no actually real risk in signing a 2-year deal. You can just waive them. There's a guarantee date like deeper into the season for two-way guys, but it doesn't count against the salary cap ever, and it's a fully non-guaranteed deal. Just by its nature. So I assume this has to be a 2-year contract or 2-year two-way contract. So, because there's no room for him to play this year. So the value in getting him on the roster would be getting a closer eye on him, letting him play for the remix, letting him practice, have him travel a little bit, find out what kind of guy he is, find out, see a little bit of him up close. I'm sure they've scouted him. And if they signed him, I'm sure they scouted him up plenty playing for the OKC Blue and playing a little bit for Oklahoma City. Hopefully they knew how tall he was and not unlike me, who was like, isn't he like a 4? No, he's a 2-guard, buddy. So you're getting a flyer on him, assuming it's a multi-year contract, so that way he'll have a similar role next year. And if you decide in the summertime that that's not the way you want to go, there's no risk. Like two-way contracts are not very player friendly, but they have real flexibility from a team perspective. And if Youngblood ends up being a player, good. But I think that's what I want to talk about in the second segment is sort of the Blazers' approach to two-way contracts, because this is not a position of need. They did not sign someone to a position of need, and it speaks to sort of maybe the general approach. And we'll talk a little bit about Javonte Cook, who has since been waived by the Trailblazers in an unrelated move, to be sure. Join me in the second segment as we continue to talk the end of the Blazers roster and the March reshuffling towards that back end. Join me in the second segment, won't you? First, though, let's talk Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, you know that feeling. And when all that's happening and you still have a position that you need to fill, well, that's why you're going to need Indeed sponsored jobs. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach people who actually fit what you're looking for with the skills, the experience, the location that you are and they are as well. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your job post. And here's a stat for you. While I'm going to be reading you this ad, companies like yours have hired 27 folks to fill their needs at their company, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners to my show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support my show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right. So, thanks for making the show your first listen. Go join the Locked On Everydayer Club. Ad-free version of this podcast, plus access to the members-only Discord where you can chop it up with me and your fellow Blazer fans. $5 a month, $50 a year. A link in the show notes. Come hang. LockedOnBlazers.supercast.com. Okay, so the Blazers, in an unrelated move, they waived Javonte Cook on a two-way contract. The Blazers, of course, had a open two-way spot, so they added Chris Youngblood, and now they have since waived Javonte Cook. You would assume that they did that for a couple reasons. One, it gives Cook a very brief window, Tuesday and Wednesday, to find another job if another team wants to sign him to a two-way deal. And more importantly, probably for the Blazers, if they have someone else that they want to add to a two-way spot in a similar vein to Chris Youngblood, where you say, let's get him on, get him in the building, be here in the summertime, be here on the G League team, play here in the summer league team, and then come back in the fall, and then we can make decisions on kind of what you want to do. You would assume that they will fill that roster spot. It would be stunning if they didn't do it. But who knows what they'll do. Javonte Cook, the whole Javonte Cook experience remains very strange to me. Not necessarily bad, but just the whole, I don't mean it like, I guess I do feel, let me be honest about my feelings here. This is my podcast. I don't need to lie. I feel generally negative about the way it went down, but I don't think it's like capital B bad or like some sort of like proof of, I don't know, just like malpractice by the organization. I just find it so strange. I find it so strange. So Javonte Cook played 19 total games, 19 total appearances, 94 minutes. We watched him shoot 41 times, 41 field goal attempts, 94 minutes, 19 games. He just barely played, right? But that's the thing about two-way players. They barely play. That's a very normal thing. The City Sissoko outcome is like a uniquely positive outcome. That is not typically how they go down. It's not the only one that gets converted, but it is much more likely that you end up in the Chris Youngblood where you just play and then, hey, we don't have a roster spot for you. You're kind of a fringy NBA guy and you've run out of your fringy NBA guy opportunities. Peace. You have now been waived. But like Cook never got even like sort of the break the glass opportunities when the Blazers were severely undermanned in November and December when, and they're trotting out like, we've got 9 available bodies and one of them is Javonte Cook. He wasn't getting in the games. He was getting DNPs when they were just like straight up, just desperate for anyone to contribute when they were so beat up. And at the time, I did I think a mailbag question about this, and maybe in the middle of December, someone asked like, hey, why haven't the Blazers signed a couple players that were on the Rip City Remix, their G League affiliate, who have now gone on since to sign two-way contracts. Blake Hinson, who's a shooter who went to Pitt, signed with the Utah Jazz, and Dylan Jones went on to sign a two-way deal with the New York Knicks. So like, it was like, the question back then was like, why not sign one of these productive G Leaguers and waive Cook? And I said at the time, like, I don't know enough about it, like Hinson specifically, and that was the name that like comes up with a lot of fans because he could shoot it in the G, and the Blazers need shooting. It's like, I can't speak to like what the Blazers saw scouting wise, and I've watched a lot more Hinson than Javonte Cook. I've straight up never really seen Javonte Cook play, and at least Blake Hinson went to Pitt. I saw him play against Carolina a couple times. Like I've seen him play basketball. It's like I can't speak to it, but my guess at the time is like even if Cook is a little bit older at 26, Hinson was also about the same age. It's like the Blazers clearly kind of they see something, they value him and all that, they value him, and then. But they don't really, because they waive him at the end of this without ever giving him an opportunity. And I think this is just the weird part, sort of the general, just how you operate on the margins here with this type of thing. I think I don't know that it's again, I don't know it's malpractice, but I think it is notable how you are operating in the margins, particularly when you're not a very good team, right? You want to take as many swings as you possibly can at the piñata, right? You don't want to leave that thing hanging. I went to a 5-year-old's birthday party earlier this year, and one of the fellow 5-year-olds just whacked the heck out of the piñata. I won't dox this child's name, but when it was their turn yet again, I was like, yes, give this kid the bat. I want to, we're going to, and I feel like the Blazers do not embody the spirit of that kid. They embody the spirit more of my child, who was like, I don't want to hit the piñata. That's too loud. I don't want to hit it. I just feel like you're leaving candy in that thing. You're leaving candy in that colorful donkey up there, or whatever it was, Olaf from Frozen. Because if Cook's not part of the plan, right? If the coach isn't going to play him 94 minutes since October, a lot of time on the inactive list, 19 total appearances. If the coach isn't going to play him, at some point you either have to say, hey, we really like this dude, and when we need bodies, get him out there, right? That doesn't always work. Front office and coaching staff, sometimes you try to stay out of the way, provide them with good players and stay out of the way. But provide them with players you think are good and stay out of the way. I think it's a better way to say that. But at some point it's what is the point of the Javonte Cook experience? Because my reasoning at the time was, I don't know any better, but the Blazers have to value this guy, because otherwise why would he be on the roster when there's some clear, skill upgrades that they could offer somewhere else. So some clear sort of needs that they need to fill. And then they don't do that. Not that Blake Hinson is going to change the Blazers outcome this year, right? But I just think it's the lack of action there it's not saying, nope, this doesn't work, and this is an opportunity on the margins that is at least worth a swing. And Javonte Cook's been, his numbers, at least I haven't watched him at all in the G League. Some of you have. I know some of shout out to the homies in the Discord who filled me in on all the G League stuff, who go more frequently and let me know. That's why you join the Everyday Air Club, so you can be my scouts, my unpaid scouts. I guess you pay me a small amount of money to do scouting for me. It's a better deal than that sounds. But looking at his numbers, Cook's been pretty good in the G League. Not spectacular, but good. A 20 some a game scorer. He gets a lot of steals and blocks every so often. But if you're not going to cycle through G Leaguers and take a dart throw at someone who might be able to help when you're desperately in need of bodies in December, and then they're not part of the plan into the future, it just seems like you're punting on some chances to try to get better. It seems like you're missing opportunities at the margins. Now, let me be clear when I say that. I've said it once, but I want to be clear. I do not think that the Blake Hinsons, Dylan Joneses, whomever it might be of the world, are going to be the thing that turns the tides for the Blazers. I think it is a general approach, though. Not taking opportunities at the margins speaks to a general approach that I don't agree with. I think you take as many swings at the piñata as possible. Indeed, as a father, I went and encouraged my young and somewhat shy child to swing at Olaf. She eventually got up there and did. It was pretty fun. But, the other kid knocked that sucker down and got all the candy out because they were taking big swings. And I don't think this is a big swing. This is just standing up there and lightly tapping Olaf, suspended from the ceiling at some undisclosed location in Northeast Portland. So, I just in general, I find the Javonte Cook saga bizarre as an approach to roster building. I think and I have another thought on the Blazers' sort of approach to roster building, which I don't think is a negative. I just think it is something maybe in light of Javonte Cook and now in light of Chris Youngblood, kind of just a thing I'm thinking about with the way the Blazers have approached a roster spot, and considering that they've still got another Still got another two-way spot available, not roster spot, two-way spot specifically available. I will share that thought in the third segment, plus a little bit of a minor update on Senate Bill 1501 as the Blazers march closer to getting $600 million to build themselves a new arena. Join me in that third segment, won't you? First, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Therapy can be an incredibly valuable tool, no matter what you're going through, whether it is an acute traumatic event, a major trauma in your life, or just trying to navigate the daily challenges of being alive in the world. Therapy is a wonderful tool that can be really helpful in helping you discover your best tools for navigating. There are many ways to get therapy, and BetterHelp is one of the most convenient and affordable options out there. So if you are considering starting therapy, or you're considering restarting therapy, or you're considering just switching to a new style of therapy that's convenient and meets you where you are, well, BetterHelp is certainly an option, because it can help you with creating balance, setting healthy boundaries, supporting your overall well-being. With over 30,000 licensed therapists, more than 600 people served worldwide, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform. Fill out a short questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and if it's not the right fit, switch at any time. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up today and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That's betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. BetterHelp.com/lockedonnba. Today's program is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's March. That means it's college basketball season, big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. You're going to get your conference tournaments. You're eventually going to get the NCAA tournaments. You got a lot of college hoops during this fine month. If you're someone who likes to build elaborate parlays, you can build elaborate parlays. If you're someone who likes to watch the big rivalry games, the ranked matchups, whatever you're into, you're going to find all of that over there on FanDuel. So go safe, be bold. Ride with your favorite team. Bet on a team you hate. Whatever your style is, go to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. One last stray thought on two-way contracts in general. I think one thing I've learned about how the Blazers treat these two-way contracts, in light of the Chris Youngblood signing, in light of the Javonte Cook signing, is they don't treat them necessarily like specific Band-Aids for an ailment that they have. Because if they did, they would sign a center, because they do need center depth. It is very clear they need center depth. Not that there's just not that many tall people in the G League. Because of the existence of 3 two-way contracts across the NBA, viable big men taller than 6'10", they're going to get swooped up, right? There's just not a lot of options out there. But they're not even signing a guy who's a 4-5-ish and could play at 6'8", play small ball center in a pinch and is a good rebounder or whatever. They kind of treat each one of these as just hey, this might help. And I think that is a reasonable approach, because I think the reality of these G League contracts is that these guys probably won't help, right? You're taking a flyer on a guy who, is often undrafted, or is a younger player who couldn't get a full-time gig in the G League and is kind of hanging, or in the NBA, and is hanging on the fringes of hey, you're a good G Leaguer, but maybe you don't want to move to Greece yet. And so because of the reality of that they are mostly flyers and guys who are going to have a very short stint in the league, and really have a very small window to prove that they're capable, and without a lot of commitment to them to sort of get the opportunity to move, take steps forward. There's Sidi Sissoko is the exception. The sort of the Jiovante Cook is the general experience, right? I think even Chris Youngblood in OKC is a general experience is that you guys, they don't make it. They churn through it. And I think the Blazers have not typically treated two-way contracts as a way to. You can treat them in two ways. You can treat them as positional depth. What is the position we don't have? Okay, we need another point guard. Let's make sure we have one more point guard on a two-way contract just in case. Oh, we need another big. Let's make sure we have another big on a two-way contract just in case. Oh, we need just like a random shooter, like can't do anything else, but probably can make a standstill three. Let's make sure we have that one skill set on the bench. Instead of like specific band-aids, the Blazers have treated more like flyers. Let's take a lottery ticket. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Cook maybe doesn't exactly fit that lottery ticket description, considering that he's older than Denny Avdia and Tumani Kamara. But like, in theory, my read on it is that they thought that this was like a, sort of diamond in the rough, interesting defender, big guard athlete, and it just like, it didn't work out for whatever reason. And so I wonder what they will do with their final two-way spot, but I do not necessarily anticipate. I don't think Youngblood will play. I don't think Caleb Love's going to play again unless they absolutely need him. I think he's going to be in the G League. I think that's just his fate. And so whoever they sign with this final spot, I don't expect them to play, and so I don't expect that to be a sort of a positional need or a depth or like to be address a need on the NBA team. Instead, it's going to be another like maybe this guy will help. Let's get him in the building, and if he's good enough to be an NBA player, that's a good problem to have. Like even if he's an overlap skill wise, and I guess the Blazers are like really committed to getting guys who can't really shoot or dribble. They have a type. That's mean, but it's true also. Okay, a minor political update as we continue to track the happenings in beautiful Salem, Oregon, the seat of Marion County, the Mid-Willamette Valley. Shout out to all my homies who attended high school in the great city of Salem. I have several. Their Senate Bill 1501, which does not have anything to do with Salem high schools, but the state capital is indeed in Salem, passed through the Budget Committee. That's the Ways and Means Committee. And now it goes back to the Senate floor for a final vote. This is just, once it passed through to the Budget Committee, once it passed in a 4-1 vote last week, it had to pass through the Budget Committee. It passed with no objections, and now it comes back to the floor for a final vote in the Senate. The legislative session is a short session, 35 days. It ends on March 8th, so this has to be wrapped up by no later than Monday. Part of the bill includes that the city and the county, that's the city of Portland and then Multnomah County, will also make commitments to financially to have this bill go into effect. And also the bill, Tom Dundon has to purchase the Blazers for this, the sales to go through and be finalized. And I believe the specifics of the bill, it needs to be sold to Tom Dundon as the acting owner, or the controlling owner, to have this money be available. Nothing's changed though. It's still going to be about $365 million from at the state level, about $88 million from the county level, and the remainder made up from the city of Portland. It'll be taken from money allocated from the general fund of taxes, mostly taxing players and construction that goes on in the renovations of the Moda Center and performers at the Moda Center. That money would otherwise just go to the general fund. It's not. There's no private money going into this. This was always the way it was going to go, and it seems like it's just this is the way it is going to go. But I think importantly, as I mentioned, kind of when this bill was first introduced or first passed last week, or sent to the Budget Committee last week, is like once this gets rolling downhill, the momentum for this happening is the Blazers. The good news is that the Blazers are going to stay in town. The bad news is maybe the mechanism by which they do it. Although, this is just kind of how it works in American professional sports. It's unfortunate that this is, in my opinion, unfortunate that this is the way it works, but this is the way it works. So I think by this time next week, I'm recording this you're listening to Tuesday, March 3rd show. I'm recording this on late on Monday evening. By this time next week, we should have a resolution of the Blazers, with at least a legal commitment, legal mechanism to keep them in town and to renovate the Moda Center over 3 summers in 2027, 2028, and 2029, and get you a sparkly new arena that everyone definitely needs. Everybody needs, even the billionaire who we're building it for, he definitely needs it too. Because it's there's definitely a way that you could prove to me that this is somehow financially beneficial once it's a shinier new stadium. I'm sure someone will be able to explain that to me at some point. That's going to do it for today's program. Enough snark to end the show. I'm glad I got to share a little pinata story for you. Not even a metaphor that was in my notes, just the beauty of listening to Locked On Blazers 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Come back for tomorrow's show. Lamar Hurd of the Portland Trailblazers is going to join the show. Lamar's the best, and he says he's going to share his insights from the road with us on this very program. So come check it out and tell your friends to do the same. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.